Hello, everybody, and welcome to Big Blue Kickoff Live on this Monday, the first Monday of December. Only 5 games to go, folks. 2024. John Schmeelk, Paul Dottino with you, taking your phone calls at 201-939-4513. We haven't done a show since the game, so we're not going to do, look, it's 4 days ago. We're not going to do like our full, usually, roundabout, rundown, and all that stuff. We will talk about it, and then we'll just take your calls for the next hour. Whatever you want to talk about, we can, of course, discuss that as well. Paul Dottino, how are you, sir?
Doing all right, John.
What time did you guys land on Friday morning, by the way?
We got in around 2 o'clock.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, it wasn't that bad. And, quite honestly, it was really weird because we get to Dallas on Wednesday at around, about 3 in the afternoon? And it's 83 degrees.
You must have been loving life.
I did 7 miles.
Nice. Did you walk around all the stadiums?
Yes.
Was it fun?
Really fun.
Good walk?
Excellent.
A lot of concrete, though. But not...
I did the old ballpark at Arlington twice.
Nice.
Then I did the new one. I forget what they call it, where the Rangers are.
I have not seen the new one yet. How does it look?
Yeah.
Is it pretty cool?
It looks like a convention center.
Really?
It's a big rectangular structure
it's not
with
domed,
lots of glass.
No
it's
dome,
got
right?
the retractable.
Oh, it's got
roof.
a retractable. Okay.
It's kind of like
Seattle.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's got the big rectangular thing that just slides out
okay,
and then
gotcha.
slides
I
over.
gotcha.
So it looks more like a convention center than it does a ballpark. The ballpark at Arlington is one of those that's kind of like after Camden
It's very
Yards.
brick, right? Yeah.
It's very brick, very old style.
That one I've been around. That one I know what it looks like.
But now they only play soccer and spring football in there.
Right.
They don't do anything else in there. So I walked around that one twice. The new baseball stadium once. So then I went to AT&T. I walked around there 1.5 times. But then it was getting dark.
And that's a big stadium to walk around.
Oh, it is.
It takes up a lot of real estate. So.
It is huge. It's like its own county. I mean, the building is ridiculous. So, but then it was getting dark and dusk. So I had to come back, and I only was at 7. I wanted to do 10, but it was getting dark, and you don't want to be walking around in empty parking lots, when it's pitch black out.
Especially not if you were in Giant stuff.
No, it's not a good idea.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I decided to end it at 7. And then the next morning it was 43.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Very weird.
So my wife was kind enough to do Thanksgiving dinner for me, and then my family came over. They did it the day before at my sister's house. Did you have your wife do like a mini Thanksgiving for you on Friday or no?
No. I told my family, my wife, my daughter, my cousins, they all wanted to do something, and they were going to hold it till Sunday for me.
Oh, that would have been nice.
And I said, absolutely not.
Why?
It's the holiday. You guys do it. Don't
Good for
hold
you.
up on account of me.
Well, again, my whole family did it on Thursday. So they did everything on my sister's house. Everybody went. Then they just came for round 2 from my house.
That's
the next
really
day.
nice.
So it was like double Thanksgiving dinner, which was nice.
Well, did you eat well?
Yeah. I did eat well.
Compliments to the Giants folks, by the way. They made sure that there was a carving station of turkey with potatoes and everything on Thursday morning for the team brunch before we went to the stadium for the game. So big thumbs up to the folks down there at the Lowe's.
And then more importantly, the
Lowe's
Cowboys,
at Arlington.
The Cowboys always put out a nice spread in that press box.
They always do, and they had turkey as well. And I had a piece of that just because I figured, it's Thanksgiving. If I can't have extra turkey, when can I do that?
Correct. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the game a little bit here, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I was on with Sean Morash on Saturday morning, and we did an hour on the game, right, for Big Blue Kickoff Saturday. And he after I kind of listed things, he goes, John, it was like a game of Giants bingo this year, and you hit every box. Because the same things that have plagued this team all year long plagued them again in this game.
Mm-hmm.
They turned the ball over twice, didn't have any takeaways. They were like an inch of Cooper Rush's knee hitting the turf away from getting one in the red zone, but his knee was down before the ball got punched out by Bobby Okereke.
Mm-hmm.
So -2 on that, and 2 of those takeaways, one was a pick 6, the other one led directly to a touchdown on a short field.
Mm-hmm.
So you had 2 of those. They committed, I forget the exact number. Was it 13 penalties, 96 yards?
13 penalties. That is accurate. Season high, 13 penalties.
So that's brutal. Can't have that. They let Rico Dowdle have his best ever running game of his career. The Cowboys have been the worst running team in football all year. Cowboys run the ball, which is what they've been doing all year. Giants missed too many tackles, which was the lament again post-game. And the Cowboys Giants don't have one play of 30 or more yards. The Cowboys have 2 of them. So it was literally Giants bingo. All the boxes that have hit this year for why the Giants have lost games hit again. And they hit again in this game.
Yeah. I mean, John, there was actually one thing that they did really well this time. Scoring zone. 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals on 4 trips inside the 30.
Yeah, but two for 4 touchdowns isn't great.
No, but at least they got 4 scores on 4 tries.
They did.
And for the season, they're only at like 65%.
No, I know.
So that was actually an upgrade, if you will.
That was, I agree.
And I also thought special teams was actually really good the other day. In particular, Art.
Punt coverage.
He had the big stick, and then he had the down at the 1 yard line on 2 consecutive punt coverages. Art, what's his name? Number 35.
Green.
Art Green, the corner that they promoted from the practice squad a couple weeks ago. So I thought that was good. Gano was fine.
Made a couple field goals.
Yeah, it was a good special teams day. And if you're looking for small victories, Giants special teams haven't necessarily won too many games. This day, I thought they did a good job on specials. That was a positive. Again, 4 scores on 4 trips in the scoring zone was a small positive. And then my other positive that I took from it, I thought Drew Lock actually played okay. I did. The second half.
Yeah,
now,
Paul, but you can't count the drive when the Cowboys are playing prevent defense.
Understood.
Up 2 scores in the fourth quarter.
Totally understood. But when I watched back the second time, I watched Locke and I said, okay, how many bad throws did he have that were not timing related because he only had 1 day to throw with his guys? Remember, he didn't know he was going to be playing quarterback until Wednesday, and even then it was a walkthrough. So he had not had game speed with any of his receivers. So when I look back at it, I said, all right, there's a lot of timing issues on some of these missed passes, and I can excuse that to some degree.
So besides the bad timing and the turnovers, everything was great.
Well, I thought his decisions were actually pretty good. He threw the ball to the right guy most often during the course of the game.
I thought there were a couple times where he took a couple sacks where he could have gotten the ball out.
I didn't credit him for any sacks. I thought there was one that was questionable, which I could have almost given to him, but I didn't give him credit for any sacks. And I thought that he also ran the ball effectively.
He did run the ball effectively. He did do that.
So to me, much like Tommy DeVito the week before, I thought Tommy took a small step forward in improving his value just a little bit. I thought Drew Lock actually showed a little bit the other day, too.
I don't think he did enough, though, to keep the job if DeVito's healthy.
Probably not.
Let me put it this way. I thought out of the last 4 halves of football we've seen the Giants play, I thought DeVito's second half in his game was the best half of football we've seen a quarterback play so far.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair because the fourth quarter with Locke, I will say this, you're right. Dallas was playing prevent. They knew they had a 2-score lead, and so the Giants were in a situation where they could just chew up yardage. So I get it. That's kind of like a scrimmage drill or a practice drill. It's not real competitive, but at the same time, Locke did get them 2 scores and got them within a score with 1:20 to go, and then the defense gave up the first down to milk the clock. So the fact that they were down by 17 points, and it could have been even uglier, and Drew Lock didn't let it get that way, I gave him a little bit of a pat on the back.
Yeah, I mean, the other drive, it was like a 45-yard drive, right, to set up the field goal.
Have you seen the Giants' offense this year?
No, I know. I get you. I know. I got you.
I'm looking for small victories here, John.
No, I'm with you.
I mean, so, look, we've seen Mike Glennon before. We've seen Jake Fromm before.
It was better than that.
Both of these guys were better than those 2 guys.
Yes, that is true. No argument there.
You know?
I thought the offensive line looked like offensive lines from years past for the Giants in this game.
That wasn't good.
Especially blocking, pass protecting. A
Not
lot
good.
of issues with stunts and twists. Guys getting beat in the middle. Both tackles had a lot of issues in this game. You saw the difference, whenever we talk about, the opponent and why that's important when you're judging a team and even individuals. Evan Neal looked a lot different trying to block Micah Parsons than he looked trying to block the Panthers and Bucks.
This was easily the worst of his 3 games.
Oh, not even close.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but again,
Micah Parsons.
The level of competition was a real step up. And maybe at this point in his reclamation project, that was a big hamburger to bite off.
Yeah, well, he might get Cam Jordan this week against the Saints, a decent amount. So
Cam Jordan has got a long in the tooth. He's not the same player.
I know.
I would think.
He's still better than anyone on the Bucks or the Panthers.
Yeah, but I think it's reasonable to expect Evan Neal to go out there and do a solid job against him. I will
hope
be
so.
disappointed if he does not.
Hope so.
You
Hope
know. The other thing that I was really disappointed
And I
about.
thought, by the way, real quick, before you jumped
Yeah.
away from the offensive line, I didn't think the interior run blocking was as good as it has been in past weeks either.
No. The line as a whole took a real step back in Dallas. There's no question. I thought the pass rush was disappointing.
Yeah,
And
totally agree.
I don't know what the pressure number was. I don't keep pressure numbers.
Let me look at it.
But they had 3 quarterback hits, I believe, in the game. 3.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Rush does get the ball out quick, but it was
You got to have more than 3.
Yeah, 3 quarterback hits.
I mean, that's not okay. And I get it, right? I get it. Dexter Lawrence didn't play the second half. But 3 quarterback hits? Ooh.
No, but Dexter played almost into the fourth quarter. He didn't get hurt till the end of the third.
I forget the play where he went out.
I couldn't find the play either when I was looking through the play-by-play because I wanted to check that today.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
But I can tell you that Dexter Lawrence
It was close to the Cowboys' second touchdown, I think, where they threw it to the left side of the end zone.
It was towards the end of the third quarter.
Because he had come in and out. He had not played every play up to that point.
Yes. So Dexter Lawrence made a tackle with 11:44 to go in the third quarter. His name does not show up for making a tackle after that. But they do not have, usually on these things, they'll have player left. Maybe it was that play, Pearson. Maybe it was the play on
Could it have been?
on the Cooks touchdown.
I think so, yeah.
It could have been. It could have been that play where he got hurt. So
Now,
that
you know what's interesting?
So the Cowboys that was at the 11:44 mark in the third.
After the game, I asked him about that drive. And he goes, I wasn't on the field for that drive. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. We played it back. I heard it.
So I know that he was in and out of the lineup. So I don't know how many of those plays he was actually in for. And if we see him there for one tackle, that's fine.
Giants 19% pressure rate, by the way.
It's terrible.
It's not good. Cowboys are at 50% just for.
I mean, one of the things when I went back and watched, I did not look for him specifically to see what plays he played on, what plays he didn't play on. I didn't do that. I mean, because at this point, that's just so not relevant to what's going on with the season.
They were also double teaming him constantly.
Oh, no
over
question.
The course of the game.
No question. And Burns, by the way, Burns plays his butt off every single weekend.
Yeah, but he wasn't productive enough in the pass rush, though.
I need more out of him in terms of numbers and production. I agree with that. But his effort is exemplary. And I guess he's been in this situation for a lot of years when he was in Carolina, when they were an also-ran team and he was forced to play in these types of games.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's probably used to it.
I hate to say it.
It wasn't the Cooks play, by the way. He did not hurt himself in that play. So it must have been early in that following drive where Okereke fell. His story, by the way, we did play that back on the postgame show where he goes, yeah, Bobby Okereke fell on my arm. And then I looked at him and I said, Bobby, I think you just popped my arm out. And then I thought to myself, I wonder if this is what it feels like to be in shock.
Yeah.
And then I said to Casillas, this is why I'm not an NFL football player. The way
That's
to
right.
describe that so calmly, like, oh yeah, my elbow's out. Oh, I wonder if this is what shock feels like. Are you kidding me?
Well, come on. How many times
I know. It's just
have we seen Michael Strahan or Brian Boldinger around this facility with
I
fingers that look like something from an Etch-a-Sketch?
And it does sound like
it's not good.
Yeah, and look, we know Dexter's a tough guy, and the amount of force it must have taken to pop that elbow out of place, I could only imagine.
I cannot.
I did rewatch the game on tape today. I was right up against the show. I didn't have a chance to try to find that specific play and rewatch it. But it sounds like we're not going to see Dexter again this year, which will make these last 5 games an even tougher watch. Sounds like we're not going to see Theo Johnson again this year at tight end, which will make the last 5 games an even tougher watch.
I actually was trying to do a spot with Theo during the postgame, and he had made some plays in the fourth quarter during one of the touchdown drive, which was really nice.
Oh, did he throw shoes at you?
No, he did not.
Okay.
No, he did not throw his shoe at me.
Sure, no reason to guys.
I'm aware of it.
The joke is Charlotte Carroll tweeted after the game
Yes.
that Theo Johnson seemed very angry after the game and he threw his shoes, and nobody knew why. I was hoping that you were in the crossfire there.
No such luck.
Okay.
No, but in all honesty, he had showed some real gumption in the fourth quarter specifically. All 5 of his catches were in the second half. I think 4 of them were in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
3 of them was on a scoring drive. And he showed some athleticism. He showed some power. He showed some real gumption.
He ran over DeMarvion Overshown on the one.
Had a fire in his belly.
How good is DeMarvion Overshown, by the way?
Well, he's becoming like Sean Lee to the Giants.
He's all over the place.
Okay?
He's all over the place.
I don't know what he does for everybody else, but he gets up for the Giants. All right? I'm telling you, he's Sean Lee reincarnated now.
Well, Sean Lee was good against everybody.
Okay, but he really killed the Giants.
Right.
He would have, if he played the Giants every week, Sean Lee would have been a Hall of Famer.
Right. No, I hear you.
Okay.
I'm with you
Anyway,
on that.
but so I went up to Theo after the game, and because I wanted to give him a pat on the back, he played his butt off and showed some really cool stuff in the fourth, and he goes, I can't do it, and I looked at him like, he goes, my foot, I got to go for X-ray, and he just like shook his head, and I was like, oh no, don't tell me, and of course, he found out it wasn't good.
Boy,
I know.
Anything else on the game?
Not really. I think,
Stop committing defensive pass interference penalties. How about that? And they were all legitimate calls, too.
You know the shame of it? And I know you folks aren't going to believe this because the timing of the Giants' penalties has been horrific all season long. But up until this past week, the Giants have consistently been in like the bottom 6 to 8 in terms of penalties. Mm-hmm. They've been actually one of the least penalized teams in the league.
Yeah. Top 10 fewest penalties.
But because they are constantly coming in bad spots, it just becomes that much more painful. And then the other day, a season high 13.
I mean, and look,
that's going to ruin their standing now.
And look, I'm going to do the old Tom Coughlin line. You have a game where you're -2 in turnovers and you have 13 penalties for 96 yards. I don't care how good you are. The chances of you winning that game is probably like 10% at best. It might be lower than that.
Yeah, just horrible. And really,
you just have to get out of your own way a little bit more, man. I mean, you can't have these self-inflicted wounds.
I know.
And look, I'm not going to kill Locke on the screen pass. That was just a really good play by Overshown.
It's a great play.
I thought he could have maybe tried to lob it over him instead of around him maybe, but that was just a really, really good play.
And he talked about that, and actually I liked his logic. You heard his cut,
because
right?
If you lob it too high, the lineman can get downfield.
And you're going to get flagged for a penalty.
And by the way, Runyon was illegally downfield anyway. They just didn't throw the flag on it.
They usually don't.
I know.
That's not a penalty that officials are really looking to nail you on.
This year it's been a lot more.
A lot more.
I think that maybe has been a point of emphasis because of all the RPOs teams are running now. And,
maybe.
That's always been a thing on screen passes where the lineman can't get out too early.
But you know what? Honestly, they're supposed to give him like 2 yards. Right?
Yeah, that's the rule. It's 2 yards.
That's the rule.
That's correct.
To be honest with you, as the play's developing, I've thought about this on my own. If I'm playing that spot, right? I'm the guard, I'm the tackle, and that play's being run. It's very difficult for me in my head to think about, I got maybe 2 steps, 3 steps, that's 2 yards.
Well, and you also can't look back. It's all
Right.
about just trying to figure in your head, all right, where do you think this play is
That's
now?
if you really want to call that penalty to the letter, that is a very difficult penalty not to commit if you're one of those linemen.
Usually they'll give you a yard grace.
Right. They usually will.
Once you start
Technically,
hitting 4
it's 2.
Once you start hitting 4 and 5, that's when they're going to start calling the flag.
Right.
Right.
So what I'd like to see them do is make it a 3-yarder and then give you grace up to 4. That's what I'd love to see them do. I think it would just be more fair to these linemen because I just think physically that is a very hard penalty to avoid.
What'd you think of the games yesterday?
Thoroughly enjoyed the Jets losing. I don't mind telling people that. I mean, that was just...
Captain shaded for it over here.
Well, I warned them not to go for Aaron Rodgers. I told them not to do it, and they sold their soul to the devil, and they're paying the piper now. 0 for 5 now in game-winning situations.
You would think at 2-10, Paul might have some grace for another team also struggling. There is no grace. Paul's the guy planted the flag on the other field of the other team in college football.
It's just that, look, it is what it is. That's the reality of it. I thought the Buffalo-San Francisco game, just because of the blizzard conditions, was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was done at halftime, though. That game was over.
Again, I have no love lost for the 49ers, so I didn't mind seeing that either. Buffalo clinches, and we have...
Tough to see Christian McCaffrey get hurt again.
That was terrible.
You never
That was terrible. And it didn't look like when he got hit, it didn't look like it was going to be
his
that
knee
bad.
just banged on the ground.
Right.
It didn't look like it got twisted or anything.
And what did they say this morning,
PCL
Pearson?
sprain is what they're
Is it?
saying. It's a PCL sprain, yeah.
You know, that stinks. Look, the league hates to lose high-level. Well, anybody gets hurt. It stinks. But when you're losing high-level players of that nature, it's bad for the league. We want those guys to be able to play every week. You know, watch some of the Philadelphia game.
How much are you a believer in the Eagles without their playing? Is their pass rush is starting to wake up a little bit? The young secondaries coming into their own. Their offensive line looks as dominant as it used to be. That's the thing. We always talked about the Eagles winning up front, and that stopped happening end of last year. They're back to doing that again.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, John.
And their young secondaries playing better. DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, all
They
those
are
guys.
playing better. It looks like they're a different team than they were about 6 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
You know?
100% agree.
And, you know, we talked last week, and I was telling you that story about my mom watching Barkley,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, did you see the game again yesterday? I watched bits and pieces of it. I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched enough of it. Look at the creases that he has. They're not just creases, okay? They're literally canyons that he has to run through.
Yeah.
And you know, I get it. He stays healthy. He's absolutely in the strong conversation as league MVP. There's no doubt in my mind about that. He is definitely one of the contenders for that award.
He'll be top 5.
But I will tell you, my goodness, he is getting an awful lot of help. Those Eagles are basically, it's kind of like, I don't know, in billiards, right? When you're lining up your shot, the cue ball is lined up exactly on the perfect angle for the 8 ball for the corner pocket. And you could not line it up any better for him. And he's taking full advantage of it. I don't want to take anything away from him, but my goodness, are they setting the table or what, John?
Now, I've said this before, but I thought I was listening to the athletic football show over the weekend, and they were talking about running backs. And this is something I've said here. You know, you don't want to start with the running back. You want to build your team up and then add the running back to it, and that puts you over the top, right? We've seen that with Philly. We saw that with the Niners adding McCaffrey. We saw that with the Ravens adding Derrick
Baltimore,
Henry.
too. Yeah.
Even the Packers adding Josh Jacobs to an extent,
Yes,
right?
sure.
So you want to have your good line, a quarterback, a weapon outside, then you add the running back and it turbocharges you, right? And the way the guy described it, he goes, look, the running back is like lighter fluid. It's not the spark, it's not the fire. But you pour the lighter fluid on the fire you already have going,
Right.
and the thing ignites. So it's almost like an ignition fuel, right? Where you have to have the fire built already. You know, because if you have wet kindling and you don't have a spark, you can pour lighter fluid on, and guess what? Nothing's going to happen. The lighter fluid is just going to go and, like, you know, roll over the place.
I think that's a great analogy for Pacheco with the Chiefs because he is not a superstar back, but he added so much to them just by his presence.
Yeah, but I think that's what Henry and Barkley had done.
Yeah, but those guys are superstar backs.
No, but that's my point, though. Paul, you're missing my point. Wasn't Barkley a superstar back here? Was
Yeah.
there a big fire on offense where they were scoring
No.
a million points?
No.
It took him to being added to a
Right.
spot where they
No,
already
I
had
see what you mean.
something going.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? And that's when you add the back. The back can't be the first ingredient. The back has to be added after you have the other things in place.
Well,
And I thought that was just an interesting way of that a running back's like lighter fluid. You have to have the fire going, then the lighter fluid kind of makes it go. But you can't start with the back because if there's no fire already, the lighter fluid doesn't do anything.
I think that's a great analogy. And the problem is because the back is one person, so it's a lot easier to add him later than it is to go the other way when
Right.
you've got 5 guys trying to block for him.
Correct.
And so, yes, you could make the case that the Giants did it in reverse, and it was very hard to do, and they didn't do it. Right? The line just never got to the level that it needed to get to while he was here.
And the quarterback never did either.
So,
Well, think of it this way. How many, in the last 15 years, how many really good offenses had a bad quarterback but a great running back? It's a short list.
yeah, it probably is. I haven't really thought about it, but we could probably go through it and find a few, but it's a short list.
Yeah, I mean, like Ryan Tannehill with the Titans, but he's not a bad quarterback. Ryan Tannehill was okay. Like, he was fine.
Yeah.
Solid
By the
starter.
way, where in the world? I don't even know where Tannehill is.
No,
now.
it was one of those deals where he's like, I don't want to just go be a backup. Like, I'm going to wait, and if a team, like, has a bad injury
he
and they
still
need
on
me
the street?
mid-season, I believe he's on the street, yes. I believe he is.
Do you want me to say it? He'd be a bridge for somebody.
Oh, my gosh. 201-939-4513. Giants Huddle Podcast, folks. The Papa's Perspective is going up today. Is it up, Pearson?
It's up on Podcast Network.
Nice. So then it'll go up on YouTube and the app as well. Bob Papa with Troy Aikman talking about Troy called the 07 Super Bowl. Thank you. Super Bowl 42.
Yeah.
So he talks about that game with Troy and everything revolving around that game. So that's up there on the Giants Huddle Podcast right now. Make sure you go check that out. Giants.com/podcast. Giants app, or just search for Giants Huddle or search for Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. And we're back on BBK, by the way. We'll be here with you 12:30, 5 days a week from here to the end of the year, and then in the offseason as well as usual. We won't have a show on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and maybe not Christmas Eve either. I'll have to figure out what that day is going to look like. Because I believe that Christmas Day and New Year's Day are Wednesdays this year. I'm correct. If I'm not mistaken. So they're right in the middle of the week. So we're going to have to figure that out. So we'll see how that works. All right, 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Download Giants TV, the Giants streaming app. It has all original video content, all that stuff. You can find it on the Giants app or just search for Giants TV on any of your smart TVs. It's all there. Check it out, and that's how you get all of our original Giants content. All right, we got about half an hour of your calls here at 201-939-4513. Let's go to Jason in New Haven. He'll lead us off today. Hi, Jason.
Hello?
Jason, are you there, buddy? Jason going once. Jason going twice. All right, we'll try to get another call up here real quick. Pearson, do me a favor, just unplug that white box from behind, then plug it back in again. Just go in the back. You can pull it out of the left-hand side of the back of the box. Left-hand side. And
Jason might have been at the lunch buffet, John. I don't know.
That's also possible sometimes, too. Sometimes you just need to reset the phone system a little bit and see how it goes. 201-939-4513. We'll take your calls right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live on Giants.com and the Giants app. You know, do you think the Eagles have a chance to beat the Lions? Do you think they're a legitimate counter to them? Because, you know, right now in the NFC, you have the Lions, you have the Eagles.
Yeah.
You have the
those are the two teams.
Vikings, only 2 losses. You got to put them in the conversation. I would put them on a level below those two teams,
yes,
but they're there. And then I would put probably the Packers would be the next best team in the NFC, right?
And I don't think anybody else has an opportunity to win this conference besides those 4. I think that the drop-off after that is significant.
Who do you think is going to win the NFC West?
Man. Kirk Cousins threw 4 picks yesterday. So I don't know.
I said NFC West.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Falcons used to be in the NFC West. Now they're in the NFC South.
I'm still in my throwback machine, John.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was gonna ask you about the NFC South too. Who do you think is going to win the NFC South and the NFC West?
My God. Does it matter? Honestly?
I'm trying to buy time until we get a second
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, the phone's ringing now, so that's good. No, honestly, those two divisions.
Do you want to think about it, and then we'll get back to you in a second?
Just, simply put, in those two divisions, I don't think anybody there is a conference champion contender.
No, I agree.
I just don't.
All right, and then I'll ask you who thinks will win the division. But let's go to Len in Columbia, Maryland. He's up next. Hey, Len, what's going on, pal?
Oh, boy. What's going on, John?
What's up, Len? How are you?
Okay.
Hey, Len.
Hanging in there.
I hope you had a good Thanksgiving Day weekend, my friend.
It was good up till about 4:30.
Yeah, I got you.
Everything fell into place. The dinner got moved back so I could watch. Up a little bit so I could watch the game. But I was actually sorry I did that. Hey, John, you got a list of plays there. I know you got a book.
Yeah, what do you got?
I want to go. I had a bad feeling at 4:31. First run from scrimmage by Dallas. Do you remember the play? You got it listed there?
Yeah, I got you. Mm-hmm.
Was that the Dexter play at Dexter at 350 pounds and Dowdle at 215, nails him 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage and falls off the tackle and Dowdle goes for 5 or 6 yards?
Yeah, I think it was a 4-yard gain on that particular play, yeah.
How does he miss that tackle, guys?
Well, look, and if I remember that particular play, I just rewatched it this morning, Dex kind of penetrated, and he kind of got pushed from behind by Beebe as Dowdle cut to his left, which is probably why he missed the tackle. And then I think Thibodeau and McFadden got cleared out on the left side of the line, and Dowdle went for 4 yards. And then the rest of the game, Len, Dex was literally double teamed on every single play. The same time when same way Dallas handled in the first matchup this year. No, and trust me, I know you're not killing Dex. I know that's not what you're doing. But the problem is that if Dex doesn't make the play, can someone else make a play? That'd be nice.
Yeah, okay, I got you. I got you.
I don't want to ruin your narrative, but this was the second time this season the Giants actually led the game after the first quarter. So it didn't go that bad at 4:30.
Well, I think
it went bad. It went bad after that.
I think his point, though, the first run of the game goes for 4 yards. It could have went for -2, and they probably pretended how the run defense would.
I'll buy that part of it. But in all honesty, the third quarter was the disastrous quarter for the Giants in this game. The third quarter was absolutely horrific.
Yes.
Well, I will say this, Paul. Just real quick, Len. The Giants from the start of the second quarter to the start of the fourth quarter were outscored 24-0.
Yeah. So the third quarter was it was 13-10 at halftime.
Well, they got outscored 10-0 in the second quarter too. That also wasn't very good.
The Giants had 3 possessions in the final 5.5 minutes of the second quarter and settled for 1 field goal.
Yes.
And they had decent field position on all 3 of those opportunities. And that to me was where Dallas started to swing the game into their favor, and then in the third quarter they just steamrolled.
Yeah, they won on a 24-3 run in the second and third quarters. Not good.
Yeah. All right. I just let me go back to that play, and I wasn't knocking Dexter as much as I was lamenting the fact that first play of the game, and I just I got a bad feeling first off. I figured a stop there would be big. I mean, he's a terrific player. I'm so. Believe me, I wasn't really knocking.
No, I know you were. Well, Len, do you know what got me even worse? How about 3rd and 5 on that first drive? Giants stop Daddle, Thibodeau's offsides, and it gives the Cowboys a first down.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. And I know you guys have talked about, both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, the offensive line. Gee, a couple of orange cones may have done a better job than a couple of our linemen.
It depends how big the cones were, Len. Had to be some pretty big cones.
Boy, Evan. I mean, his left shoulder. He just gets beat inside. I mean, I keep holding out hope. I just don't think he's an offensive tackle in the NFL.
Well, Len, look, he told me too on our pregame interview that I did with him. The same interview was on the Giants Huddle podcast. He even said to me, "Look, Micah Parsons is a guy you had to play inside out, right? He wants to win inside early. You got to play him inside out. Yet Micah Parsons still 2 or 3 times in the game had quick wins inside. So he knew, he understood what he had to do heading into the game. He just did not execute it properly. And Evan, unfortunately, after 2 pretty decent games okay games against the Panthers and Bucks, it showed up against Parsons. And look, Len, you might be right. At some point, they might have to try him a tackle. We'll have 5 more games to figure it out because they don't have Andrew Thomas. So he's going to be the starting right tackle the rest of the way. So we will know for sure.
Yeah. I'm with that. I understand. That's where he's going to start. There's not going to be any move. I mean, we're not even. I mean, this is not tryout time. You get tryouts. Tryouts start January 6th when the season's over.
Well, Len, when you're 2-10, guys are playing to be on the roster next year. They are.
They are,
and
they're not going to. They're not going to bench guys who just to experiment with. With Evan at guard.
No, of course not.
Left tackle or
no.
anything.
Right.
I mean, they're just not going to do that.
No, of course
not.
not.
It's not the way it works. Why did it take? Maybe I know the answer. Maybe you've talked about this already, and this is just another frustration on my part. I mean, why? If you wanted a little spark, throw the ball to the tight end and let him rough some people up. I'm sorry Theo got hurt, by the way.
I thought there were some plays where they could have dumped it to Tyrone Tracy and let him get yards after the catch too. I would like to see him more involved in the passing game. He's a good receiver.
Yeah, well, I mean, but we get all the way. I mean, if you look at your chart again, John, I think Dallas's first completion was to the backup tight end.
Yep.
I know it's early in the game.
Schoonmaker had a few against him.
It was the first 2 completions were actually to Schoonmaker.
The first 2 completions were to the backup tight end. And I just saw for the grit that he showed, if you're looking for a spark, Theo might be the only guy in the offense that's going to give it to you as he starts running over people. And he ran over Overshown on one play, and I thought that was, I thought that was pretty good.
The other thing too, Len, I'll throw out there too. I don't know if Dable wasn't clear exactly why they did this in the post game. I think you can assume that it's because of the fumbles the last couple of games. Devin Singletary was the primary back in the first half, and then he did not touch the ball in the second half of this game. And they're like, oh, no, we're down. We need Tyron Chase to make some plays. And, look, I get it. You want to send the message to protect the ball. I totally understand that. I don't have a problem with that either. But right now, and I know some fans will roll their eyes at this because they think it's the receiver, number one, Tyron Chase right now is the best playmaker on this roster. He's the guy with the ball in his hands, makes guys misses. He makes big plays.
I agree.
Right now, I think he's the best offensive playmaker on this team right now, and you need to get the ball in his hands as much as you can.
And to some degree, I think Theo Johnson has shown some of that too, but not enough because he doesn't get any chances. But when he's gotten the ball, he has shown some ability.
Yeah, he's not like a super athlete though.
He's not. But I hate to say this, if you look at the yak yardage that the receivers are getting, you're better off getting it to Theo Johnson because these receivers are not getting any yak yardage at all. And I don't want to hear it's about ball placement either because that is a small part of it.
Yeah. Let me go back to the Evan against Parsons. And he did pretty well in the first two games when we had him out there at right tackle.
Yes, he did.
But the more important thing to remember about Parsons, he's on the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys are in our division. We are so far behind these other three teams right now. Just so far behind these other three teams in talent-wise. I mean, it's scary.
Len, I'll be honest with you. I don't think either. Honestly, Len, the Eagles. The answer is absolutely yes. I don't think either the Commanders or Cowboys are particularly talented outside of a couple of players at a couple of spots, to be honest with you.
Well, John, let me ask you. I think you may be right about the Cowboys. I don't want to talk about the Commanders, but I just want to talk about the Cowboys.
Sure.
And you may be right. Maybe the Cowboys. I think these teams are going to have to come back to us. I just have no confidence that we're catching them, John.
Well, you have to, though, Len.
Don't.
You have to. It might take some time, and it's frustrating it hasn't happened yet. You can't wait for them to come back to you. You have to go get them.
Well, but that's going to be a long haul. I just think we are so outclassed inside the division right now. It's downright scary. Hey, let me give you one rant. This is way off because every coach does it. But I wish one time I could hear a head coach on any team stand up in front of that microphone at his post-game presser and start out by saying which of the Warriors got hurt in that game. I just don't get it. These guys put their, I don't want to say lives, I'm exaggerating, on the line for us. And Dexter's hurt. Johnson's hurt. He may not have known about Johnson, but he knew about Dexter. I just wish they would start, and I'd like your comment on this. I just wish they would start it off with, just a general statement about the Warrior who went down in the game. Jeez, I just don't get it. Do you have a comment on that?
Well, Len, please, I'm not sure.
Thanks for the call, Len. Appreciate it.
I'm not sure I totally understand his question. I think he wants to see a sign of respect from the coach for the player. But here's the thing. Right after the game, coaches come in, they give a quick speech to the guys in the locker room about their effort and whatever else had happened. Hopefully it's a win, but most times it hasn't been this year. They do what he does, says what he wants to say. Then he goes back, sits in with his coaches, might have a quick second with one of the trainers to just get somewhat of an update, and then he's got to come out because according to the NFL regulations, I think it's got to be, 13 minutes, John? There's a rule for how many minutes before he gets out to the media. Is it 10?
Is there?
Oh, yeah, there's a rule.
I don't know because it's not usually not consistent week to week as someone that's waiting for him to go live on the radio postgame.
It has not been consistent, but there's actually a rule.
I did not know. I don't know what the rule is.
Yeah, I don't. There is a rule for X number of minutes before the coach is supposed to be out to the podium, and then how many minutes before the locker room is supposed to be open. There is a guideline, let's just say. If it's not a hard-fashioned rule, there is a guideline for that. So I
know there's a rule that you can't go into the locker room until 15 minutes after the game. That I know was a rule in terms of locker room access for reporters.
I'm pretty sure there's a rule for the coach, too, but I could be wrong.
I don't know. You might be
Don't
right.
hold me to that, folks. But here's what I will say. The point is, at that moment in time, he's dealing with the emotions of the players, the emotions of himself. He's got to come out. He's got to field all these questions. That's not the time for him to be making a definitive statement. In my opinion, he's better off the next day having his presser, taking a deep breath, and now, look, it's time to acknowledge a Dexter Lawrence and say, man, this guy has done everything he could possibly do for us this year. This is a horrible shame he's going to be out for the season. Give your respects to him then. When everything is calmed down and cool and you have the ability to actually, gloat over what the guy had done for you. The moments after that game, no, that is not the time to do that. So I disagree.
Yeah, I think doing that on the Monday conference call.
Yeah.
Is the place once you know exactly, but you don't even know if he's out for the year at that point.
You don't even know. So why be so effusive if you're not even sure what the deal is?
Right. All right, we're going to go to Wilson and Roxbury next. Wilson, before you start, I'm just going to remind you something, all right? I know you're going to call up here. You're going to want everyone to get fired. I know that. I know that's what you're going to do. And I'm going to preempt you by saying this. I'm going to let you say your piece. I'm not going to interrupt you. But before we start, remember, we are not going to ask for anyone around here to lose their jobs. We're friends with these guys. We like them. They're good people. We're not going to do that. It's a decision John Mara will make after the year. We have no idea what that decision is going to be. We like Brian Dable. We like Joe Shane. Say your piece.
I know. Johnny, listen. You're not going to believe this, but I was going to actually apologize to you and say thank you to you at the same time. Ask Pearson. I swear to God, I'm not lying.
All right, what do you got?
I was going to apologize to you because I know I'm controversial and I put you in a bad spot. And I know that you have to see these people every day, and you have a relationship with these people. And I know it's hard. And I want to say thank you because not every show that is owned by the company will let fans like myself express their opinions, Danny. So I want to say thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, Wilson. Thank you very much.
You know what I'm saying? But
I do.
Listen,
Thank you.
And now, but I want to say something to you. You want to sugarcoat any way you want. This head coach in the last 37 games is 10-26-1. I'm not making it up. It's right there. Proof is right there for everyone to see it. There's been finger pointed all over the place. This team has no identity. They don't know what the hell they're doing. And on top of that, he's on the verge of having the worst record in primetime history. In 100 years, this guy is going to go down as the worst record in history. So that's that. And Joe Shane, not me, people that know more football than me, have said that this guy has completely destroyed this franchise, that he basically drafted 3 first-round picks, 3 busts. Whether you don't want to admit it, Johnny, that's up to you. I'm not gonna. Everybody has their own thinking. But Kevin Thibodeau, Evan Neal, and Ted Banks, a lot of people say that this are 3 busts. That's up. Everybody can think the same thing. But Johnny, listen. As much as I love you, there's something that you keep saying that irritates Giant fans like myself. And
What's that?
Johnny, I understand that you want stability and you want continuity. Listen, we all want the same coach for 15 years, and we all want the same general manager for 15 years. But just because you made a change 3 years ago, and you don't want to make a change again, that can't be the only reason, Johnny. You can't tell Giants fans that.
No, look, listen, I was saying that to you a few weeks ago now, right, when you're in the middle of the year and a lot hasn't happened yet, okay? And at the time, when John Mara said, when he made his statement, he says, I'm not making any changes during the season, and we're not anticipating making any changes after the year. And we were very clear on here that making sure using that word anticipates matters, and what happens the rest of the year does matter. So we were pretty clear about that when John Mara made those statements at the Duke documentary screening.
Right.
And I'm going to second that, Wilson, because the facts are, to be fair to everybody involved, as Wellington Mara used to tell his son John, you don't make emotional decisions during the season. In fact, you don't even do it right after that last game. You got to sit on it. You got to sleep on it.
I mean, even when they moved on from Joe Judge, what was it, 4 days after the season? It was like Wednesday or Thursday, right?
They did, yeah, because they had exit meetings and stuff with players before they did that. You have to. And so, to be fair, when people start screaming bloody murder for somebody in the middle of a season, there's absolutely no way to be fair and say that's the proper evaluation when there's still games to be played.
And look, Wilson,
it's just not fair.
And if we're at the end of the year and we're staring at 2-15, the owner's going to make the decision the owner makes.
And that'll be an easy one for him. We don't have to give any opinions about that.
Correct.
Paulie, listen. All I'm saying, like I said, and Johnny, Johnny, listen. One thing before, I just want to make clear, man, this this is nothing personal against anybody.
I know that. Wilson, I don't take any of this, Wilson. I don't take any of this personally, man. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
Not to you and Paulie. I love you and Paul. I'm just saying, there's nothing personal in like nothing. This is all in the context of football, Johnny. I'm sure that this Joe Shane and Brian Dable, I'm sure they're great guys, man. They're great dads. And listen,
Wilson, we're in the business of winning football games. We're in the business of winning football games. I get it. I understand. Wilson, Wilson, it's been a brutal year. Any fan that is upset and wants changes, I understand where you're coming from. That's why I stated before the call what I stated, why I stated. You know what I'm saying?
I know, Johnny. And look, and again, I have to, thank you, and I'm sorry if I put you in a bad spot, but listen, after last year and this year, after this was supposed to be a great year, and I understand that everybody wants to blame Daniel. He's gone, but obviously there are much deeper problems in this team that there was Daniel, but everybody wanted to blame Daniel, but he's gone. If they go down as the worst season in the history, if John Mara goes into that podium when this season mercifully is over and says, hey, listen, we're going to roll back again, it's a hard sell to fans, Johnny. Look, even if he wants to, you can't sell that to fans like myself, because not a lot of people that call the show is like me. But there's a lot of us out here.
Wilson.
Wilson, trust me, I hear from them and appreciate the call, man. Good stuff.
But again, it's unfair to have the crystal ball and assume what's going to happen. Look, I understand the way this has gone, and it's not likely that the Giants are going to win a whole lot more games the rest of the year. It's not likely. They'll be underdogs probably every week the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. And that's fair. So if you want to sit here and say, well, there's a chance they may only win a couple of more games, you can absolutely feel that way. But that's still an if, and it's still a hypothetical. You can always, when you play the game of if, you can play it on this side of the fence, or you can play it on the other side of the fence. What if somehow the Giants go on a 5-game winning streak and end this season with 5 wins in a row and finish up at 7 and 10? All of a sudden, that decision that you think is really easy may not be so easy anymore. Because if they end the season on a 5-game winning streak, especially with some of the depleted players that they now have with injuries, that would be a pretty strong accomplishment, and it would be a good argument on the coach's behalf.
And I'll just say 2 things. No, it was never just a quarterback. And I know he wasn't referencing us with that statement. He was referencing other fans that are out there that have been...
We understood all that was going on here.
And we've always said it was not just a quarterback.
Always.
That was always the point we tried to make. So that's why we knew all these problems wouldn't be solved if they just made a change. There were bigger problems than that.
Correct.
And we've documented them, whether it's tackling, rush defense, turnovers, takeaways. Just go through the list, okay? We know about that. And you are right. You do not keep people around just for the sake of continuity. Because otherwise you would just keep, again, this is not not referencing Dable specifically, having a bad coach around for 8 years for the sake of having continuity is not a good idea because he's a bad coach, right? So John Mara said, look, he always says this, there has to be a reason at the end of the year to think the team's pointing in the right direction, you're making progress. That's what he's always used as his base of his decisions.
Right.
And I keep saying Mr. Mara and Mr. Tisch.
Correct.
I apologize for that.
Correct.
And they'll make that decision, whatever decision they make after the year.
Which is why the hypothetical opinions that are thrown out there are premature. When the time is right to make that decision, the decision will be made. Mm-hmm. And to be frank, that's why we don't, more than any other reason, the reason that we don't like to address that hypothetical is because we know how ownership will do things.
Right.
They're going to wait, so we're going to wait to talk about it.
And I also,
it's that simple.
And I also just want to show respect to the people in the building that we work with.
That's a personal thing.
On a personal level.
That's a personal level. I'm strictly talking from a football level. Mm-hmm. That's not the way this ownership or this front office does business, so we're not going to talk out of turn. We're just not going to do it.
Let's go to Aiden in New Jersey. He's up next. Hi, Aiden.
Hi. So I want to talk about coaching and GM. Obviously, Brian Dable, he was the coach of the year 2 years ago. And the thing is, this way the season is going and stuff, I mean, John Mara stated that he realized the last few coaches he hasn't been loyal to. Like, he hasn't given them enough of a shot. But the way it's going, I'm not advocating for anything, but your thoughts about them keeping Brian Dable and Joe Shane, because literally, like, everything's gone downhill since both of them came in 2022.
Well, that's not true. The first year wasn't downhill. It's been downhill since they lost the playoff game to the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm saying from after there, and
I think that's a little unfair too, because after Jones and Taylor got hurt, and they were down to Tommy DeVito, and nobody knew from here to Timbuktu what Tommy DeVito was going to do. And he comes in and he starts 6 games and they go 3-3. And I think there were a lot of football people outside this building who said, my God, Brian Dable did a hell of a job to work with a third-string quarterback who's an undrafted rookie free agent who was as green as a piece of celery and actually got them 3 wins in a row. So and I heard that from football people outside the building who were like, Brian Dable did a great job the second half of the season.
I know what the results look like. I do not believe Brian Dable is a bad coach.
Year,
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I'm saying especially this year when you have all
okay, now, not especially this year. This year has been just terrible on all fronts. I think it's quite clear, though, that you have to differentiate this year from last year.
Which is crazy because I still think this is the best roster that this regime has had.
You and I both agree about that. We both agree.
I'm going to third that.
Hello?
Did we lose Aiden?
Yeah, I said I'm going to third that on it being the best roster out there regime so far.
Hey, look, and Aiden, appreciate the call. That's what's been most disappointing, that you really felt this team had the horses to be a better team.
The most potential for sure. The most upside for sure.
And it just hasn't worked. And look, we don't have to go through all the reasons again. You know, rush defense still hasn't been fixed. The quarterback wasn't consistent enough when he was the starter to start the year. The turnovers are a huge part of this, obviously. And
the worst
we've been
timing.
through all of them.
The worst timing. The mistakes always come at the worst time.
They're 1-6 in one-score games again. If you throw in the Bengal game, it's 1-7 because that was a one-score game until the very end.
Right.
So
it's unbelievable.
It's the opposite. It's the bizarro 2022 year where every big spot and big play that they needed, they made. And this year has been the exact opposite.
You know, so if you're really trying to grade Brian Dable over his 3 seasons, you loved his first year when he was coach of the year. You had to respect what he did to get chicken salad out of you-know-what last season when everything fell apart on him and he was down to his third quarterback.
Yeah, and all the injuries on the offensive line.
You got to respect that. It was a historically terrible offensive line.
They won more. And
they won 6 games, John.
You look back, unfortunately. You wish they hadn't when you look back now. But they won more games than they should have last year.
Yes, and so Brian Dable, to me, you don't give him a negative for 2023. You look at 2023 and you say, hey, I salute you for what you were able to do with what you had.
Now, I wouldn't make it too much of a positive now.
I'm not gonna give him 24-karat gold bullion, but I'm gonna say I'll give him a handshake though.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I respect what he did.
Absolutely, 100%.
So, no, I disagree with it's been 3 bad years. I disagree it's been 2 bad years. I'm going to say this year has
last year the results weren't good, though.
The results weren't good, but I respect what he did.
No, I got you. I understand what you're saying.
This year, it's pretty hard to be happy with anybody, to be honest. And he himself has said that.
Yeah, he said, and Joe Shane said it too when he did his press conference.
Correct.
Both guys have said it starts with me.
So no one is running away from the stench of the 2024 season. Nobody's running away from that. That is a fact. But I have great respect for what he did in 2023. That is Coach Dable. And obviously, 2022 was just terrific. So let's be careful here when we start putting that scale together. That's why you have to wait till the end of this season. For anybody to jump to conclusions today and state what they opine is his future is just dumb.
Now, I'm more willing to have the conversation. Again, we're not going to comment on it now than I was like in week 6 when we were getting those phone calls. At least there's only 5 games left instead of 11 games left. It's a little bit different, you know what I mean? But yeah, look, I guys, look, we get it. It's been a bad year, and we're not telling you it hasn't been a bad year, or the performance hasn't been bad, the results haven't been terrible. They have been, of course. No one would argue that otherwise. Steven, DC, what's up, OG?
Hey, what's going on? Happy holidays, gentlemen.
You too, my man.
Doing?
You too.
Listen, John, you know I've been riding with you guys since I'm day one.
I know you have been, man.
Day one, guy. And been a fan since 76. I'm not, listen, I got a lot to say, but I'm not going to say it because too much. I'm just going to try to stick to my main points. But, listen to the show. I just have to comment. 2022, we scored but 15 points a game. Our defense had more turnovers than I don't even know. We lost 5 out of 7 games. We kind of put that season in context. It was terrible. We embarrassed ourselves. It was fool's gold at best. Dave was supposed to be an offensive guy. Our offense was putrid, to say the least.
No, Steve, real quick. In 2022, they were around 12th in offensive DVOA that year.
Yeah, Saquon was running for a contract, and so was Daniel Jones at the beginning of the season. But
Steve, you're right. Generally speaking, 2022 was what did turn out to be a bit of fool's gold. I don't think anyone would argue that statement. I know I certainly wouldn't.
And I want to say, I believe they scored more than 21 a game that year. They were over 20.
You might be right, but we lost 5 out of the last 7 games.
No, and that's fair. Absolutely.
Did you see the playoff game in Minnesota? Man, if you weren't having a good time that day, I got to feel you probably had a great spread and a really good time with your friends watching that game.
Man, I'm not going to keep reliving that one game with you, Paul. I'm sorry, I can't do that.
That's okay. I just want you to acknowledge that it exists. You don't have to relive it. Just acknowledge that it happened. Because that is a fact. It did happen.
It was one game. There's so many other games.
It was a playoff game.
But the thing is this, how many turnovers did our defense have that year?
In 2022, Steve, I believe they were only +3 that year.
Yeah, the ratio was not overwhelming.
Last year, it was 12? An overwhelming ratio.
Was
correct.
it 12 or 14, John?
Giants averaged 21.5 points per game, by the way, Steve, in 2022. 21.5.
I mean, come on, Steve. You know better than that. You know I got the facts.
Listen, I'm not even here to debate the facts because the facts are the facts. I'm not, but I mean, I just put them in. I look at them differently and put, in a different perspective. But that's fine. But let me just say this.
Yes.
Okay. Number one, look, we see what not to do with Chicago with the Eberflus. I thought they were going to be keeping Fields simply because they were keeping the coach. They have already picked their guy in signing Daniel Jones after seeing him for 2 years. That's their guy. That's their son. That is him they picked. Okay, so the reality is this. I do not want coaches who are clearly going to be on the hot seat at best, picking our next potential quarterback and then ruining him. So they have no business being here. Forget all the other picks. Let me tell you, not only the picks, the way we handle free agency, the way we let all these players, we don't even talk to them, and we let them walk for nothing. That is beyond incompetence. That is criminal. And it's the same thing happened again. It happened with Ojulari, it happened with Slayton, because we're probably not going to be paying. The fact that he's not even talking to these guys is disgusting. Okay? I do not want him picking.
Who didn't he talk to, Steve? Steve, who didn't he talk to?
They tried to bring Love back. They tried to bring Barkley back. You're losing me, Steve. I'm not sure where we're going here.
Who didn't they talk to, Steve?
They had no conversations with Ojulari or Slayton this year. Let's just stick with this year.
They gave Slayton a redone deal with extra incentives this year.
Well, so you want to extend those guys during the year?
Well, listen, that would be the smart thing to do, but we'll just talk about it when
No, but Steve, hold on, Steve, real quick, real second. Aren't you happy now? No, hold on. The reason you do not extend Ojulari early in the year is because of his injury history.
Correct.
So you want to make sure he's healthy before you pay the guy.
And he just got hurt again.
Yeah.
I get that. It's probably a whole lot of people going to get hurt with this record. I know how this works. So let me just say this. I get that. You can say that as hindsight, but there's an opportunity to get him on a 2-year deal. You keep a player like that hungry. You don't give him a long-term deal.
How do you know the player would have taken that kind of deal?
Well, you don't, but you don't know if you don't talk to him.
How do you know? How do you know?
Look, you got to have a conversation. You got
But
to put.
still,
But Steve, how do you know they didn't have the conversation?
You don't know that. You don't know how many players
so
they've
you
talked
don't
to during the
know players-
season.
And neither do I.
Okay, listen. Let's talk about. I'm gonna give you that because I can't argue the hypothetical. But we'll talk about it with
Steve, if I may, there's one other thing you have to take into account in that point, right? If you're going to up a guy during the season, now you're also going to have to do some jiggling with your salary cap. You understand? The Giants have less than, I believe, $2 million left on this year's salary cap. So if you were going to redo a deal and try to extend a Slayton or Ojolari, let's just say that's what they wanted to do and the player was willing to do it. Now you're going to have to do the extension, and you're going to have to give them X number of dollars of bonus money because you're going to want to get their cap number down going into next year and the year after. But that bonus money is going to be charged on this year's cap. So in all honesty, they didn't have a lot of room to do anything.
That's a good point.
Even if they wanted to, they
We
couldn't.
decided to waste $5 million on Drew Lock. Let me just make my point. Listen, I get that, man. But at the end of the day, whether it's the Saquon, or McKinney incident or situation, he's just done a poor job with the free agent and a horrible job with the draft. And everybody can already see that. Way too many question marks for all the low-hanging fruit this gentleman's had an opportunity to pick. So I just, because they're on a hot seat and they haven't proven themselves worthy, I don't want them making the pick next year. I want it to be a fresh regime, and him and Dayball are attacked after the hip. In fact, I think Dayball kind of leads things. But, either way, it's time to move on. Optics should be the last concern from Mr. Mara at this point. Really the last straw will be bypassing your $5 million quarterback in order to sell tickets at home and embarrass the
That
whole
isn't,
regime.
Steve. That
So,
is
yes,
not the reason they made that move. And first of all, $5 million is normal for Brandon Allen for the 49ers is making $3.5 million this year. Okay, so $5 million is right in line with a backup quarterback in this league.
Yeah.
All right. So
look what Tyrod Taylor got from the Jets.
So that's number one. Number two, the decision that has to take place after the year, and we've talked about this on the show. Is he still there, Pearson, or is he gone? He's gone. Sorry, Steve. That's part of the process now, right? You're right in that you don't want to bring in, and who knows if the Giants are going to bring in a franchise quarterback this offseason if you do. The last thing you want is what happened with the Bears, where you draft your franchise quarterback and then you're changing everything after a year.
Right.
You don't want that. You're 100% right about that. You're right. So if you're deciding, I think, to bring everyone back, it's more than a year commitment.
Yes.
That's how I would think about it if I was making the decision.
In
I don't
all
know if that's how
likelihood.
Mr. Mayer and Mr. Tisch are thinking about it. That's how I would think about it. Because you're right. You don't want to have, and look, when we saw what happened too, right? When they fired Tom Coughlin but kept Jerry Reese. That created a weird thing where things weren't linked up. So your points in regard to that, I get where you're coming from with that, and that is one side of the argument when everyone comes together to make that decision after the year.
Yeah, look, the one thing that I will tell you about the way I look at things at this point, I've said this to you before, and again, I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind at the Combine. I personally don't think this thing is as bad as it seems. Things are never as good as they seem, and they're never as bad as they seem. I learned that from Parcells back in the 80s, okay?
I'm generally an adherent of that philosophy as well.
So, my feeling is if you're not all in on a particular QB early in this draft, well, then you don't have to go all in on that guy. You go and you get a bridge. We've already talked about them, the possible bridges on this show before. You go and you get yourself a bridge. You do what the Giants did in 2004 when they signed Kurt Warner. You get yourself a bridge, and then you play for what's going to happen in the next couple of years. That does not have to be a death sentence.
And if you do that, by the way, and again, this might not be the year where the offers come in that way, but right now the Giants are scheduled to pick first in the draft, right? That's right now where they're at. In theory, if they're picking first, if you can get a package to move down, you do it.
But I think you do.
Now, I'm not sure. This is a year where no one might not think enough about these quarterbacks to give you a package to move down, which would be unfortunate. But again, if you believe in the quarterback, you go pick him. If you don't believe in the quarterback, you move the pick, you try to get extra assets. That's how you work it this year.
And if you're going to do something of that nature, you are better off with the consistency and continuity than just changing things entirely. Because if you're going
Which part of it? Which one? The trading or
if
drafting?
if you're going to trade down and get yourself a bridge quarterback, you're better off keeping the consistency and the continuity, because that means you don't think this team this year is as bad as they've shown. And you think that there's actually more juice that you can get out of this carton. So you let these guys have that continuity and try to make that happen with the bridge to get yourself back to respectability. That would be the logical way to go, if that's what you want to do. I tend to feel that way as I sit here today. That would be the way I would go today.
Paul? Welcome back.
Happy Thanksgiving leftovers, folks.
Happy Thanksgiving leftovers, folks. Pearson, welcome back. All right, we'll be back at 12:30 the rest of the week. For Paul Dottino, I'm John Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the Giants. We'll see you next time, everybody.